Welcome to the PortlandNeighborhood.com podcast, where we share gems of Portland's 95 neighborhoods with you. Stay tuned. Southwest Hills is located in southwest Portland. It is bordered by downtown, right above it, in the hills, Sylvan Highlands, Goose Hollow, Homestead, Healy Heights, Bridal Mile neighborhoods, and right across the Highway 26 is the big Washington Park. This neighborhood is located very close in for an easy 5-minute commute to downtown Portland, and depending on where you live in the neighborhood, it might even be less than a minute, because it literally does border downtown. Unlike most major metropolitan areas, it's unique to find such an upscale neighborhood within spitting distance of the downtown area. However, thanks to Southwest Hills' natural boundaries, you'd never know that you were so close to the hustle and bustle of this growing city. I live in this neighborhood, actually, and one of the things that you will note is that it is a very historic neighborhood, also very prestigious, with some old mansions right in the neighborhood, one of them being a Pittock family mansion that was built just a little bit after the famous Pittock mansion. Some of the features of the Southwest Hills include what is popular, by the way, it's popularly known as the West Hills in Portland. The hilly and lush nature parks in this area create stunning views from many of the homes. Depending on which area you are in, you may have a panoramic view of downtown Portland, and on a clear day, it is possible to see Mount Hood's or Mount Adams or Mount St. Helens in the distance. Another aspect of Southwest Hills is that it's full of history and connections to Portland's storied past. In fact, one of the older and most notable homes is the 1918 Frank J. Cobb's house. For architectural enthusiasts, this is one of the most luxurious estates you can find around Portland, save for the Pittock Mansion. One of the primary reasons why Southwest Hills is so desirable for the upper crust of Portland society is that it comes with so many green spaces. Even if you're not exploring one of the several parks within the neighborhood's boundaries, you are surrounded by lush trees and verdant landscape. In fact, one of the other secrets to this neighborhood is that even if you don't live in the neighborhood, it's fun to come up and walk around the neighborhood, along the trails, and find all the secret passageways. There's many hidden staircases, hidden passageways that if you don't look very carefully, you will miss them. But if you're paying attention, you can find these very beautiful, overgrown, lush, secret passageways that feel kind of like you're entering into a secret garden. Council Crest Park is right in this neighborhood on the very top of the hills. If you go up to Council Crest today, you'll be greeted with some of the best views in Portland, or Oregon for that matter. However, near the turn of the last century, this spot held a lot more than nature trails and a scenic overlook. Council Crest was actually the home of an amusement park, which opened on Memorial Day of 1907. The park was originally named after the belief that local Native Americans used to hold meetings at the top of the ridge, thus Council Crest. While there's no evidence to really support that, the name stuck and continues to this day. The rides and games were installed as part of a promotional campaign by the Portland Railway Light and Power Company. PRLMP had just finished a streetcar line that went up through the Southwest Hills neighborhood up to the park, so they wanted a compelling reason for travelers to visit. I wish they still had that today, honestly. It would be wonderful. When guests arrived at the amusement park, they were greeted by a handful of rides and several other installations. The two main attractions were the trip up the Columbia, which is pictured on the PortlandNeighborhood.com site for Southwest Hills, and the LA Thompson Scenic Railway. By the way, the trip up the Columbia is looking like, to me, a roller coaster ride. So that's amazing. And it looks like there's some model of a steamboat built into it somehow. In addition to these rides, there was also a Ferris wheel, a Japanese tea house, a carousel, a midway with various carnival games, and a dance hall. Gee whiz, golly gee williker, they knew how to have fun back then. At the time, Council Crest was called the Dreamland of the Northwest. One element that was prominently displayed in postcards and concept art was a proposed observatory called the Big Tree. Unfortunately, it was never erected before the park shut down in 1929. Sounds like the Great Depression might have had something to do with that. Instead, they built the Lewis and Clark Observatory, which was much shorter but provided incredible views of the city below. Other attractions within the park included a canal ride, where riders would float along a trellis filled with water, and hot air balloon rides. Wow, we should be doing that today. During its heyday, hundreds of people would come to marvel at the scenery and play at the top of the city, which people still do today. It's a great place to go on a date. It's also a great dog park up there, by the way, off-the-leash dog park. So although the amusement park shut down in 1929, it actually wasn't demolished until the early 1940s. Today, the park is a popular site still for both tourists and locals. It is the highest spot in Portland at 1,073 feet. On a very clear day, you can see all 4 different mountains: Mount Hood's, Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, and Mount Adams. Also, one of the things that's interesting about Council Crest Park is that you can also see not only downtown and to the Washington side, but you can see west overlooking Beaverton, Hillsborough, and that area. So you can see quite far in both directions. From Council Crest, you can connect to some of the trails that venture down into Markham Nature Park, including the 4T Trail. If you haven't heard about the 4T Trail, it's a 7-mile loop that goes through Markham Nature Park up to OHSU. You take the trolley down. So the first T is the trail. Second T is tram, which is the aerial tram at OHSU, which goes down to the waterfront. From there, you'll catch a trolley to downtown. And then once you get in downtown, you transfer to a train, or the MAX train, that takes you up to the zoo. You get out, you can explore up there, and then connect with the trail that will take you right back to Markham Park. It takes about all day to do if you want to do it. It's really fun. Technically speaking, Washington Park is not within the Southwest Hills borders, but it's just across Highway 26. And for the purpose of this Portland Neighborhood Guide, anything that's really unusual or cool that is neighboring a neighborhood, we're going to include it in that neighborhood because you pretty much can utilize it living in that neighborhood. So you can see Washington Park actually from various parts of Southwest Hills neighborhood. Washington Park is a huge park and a natural highlight of Portland thanks to its multiple attractions. Here you can find the world famous Portland Rose Garden, the Japanese Garden, the Oregon Zoo, the Children's Museum, the Discovery Museum, and a huge arboretum and miles of trails. If you're a fan of nature and exploration, we highly recommend you visit this park. There's also a train, a playground, tennis courts, lots more to do. Now, Markham Nature Park is kind of an extension of Washington Park, but it does cross over the 26. So I think the delineation between Washington Park and Markham Nature Park is basically the dividing line between the 26, Highway 26. With most parks in Portland, the objective is to marvel in nature and relax. However, if hiking is more your prerogative, then Markham Nature Park is a place that will be a good visit and a good hike for you. Only part of the park is located within Southwest Hills, but the whole area spans over 178 acres. It contains dozens of different trails, some of them spanning miles. It is very hilly. We highly recommend bringing food and water to last for several hours, as you could easily spend all day traversing the various paths that cut through the forest. One of the nice things that we find living in this neighborhood about the Markham Park trails is that if you get tired, which you are liable to do with the very steep hills in some parts of it, almost the whole park boundaries some sort of road, and even throughout the trails you will find yourself crossing across roads to get to another part of the trail. So you could always just get an Uber or a Lyft if you're tired. Using your phone on the trails, you could even order one to meet you at the certain spot on the road. So we've found that really helpful, especially going on hikes with little ones. Kids, I'm talking about. Markham also encloses the Oregon Health and Science University campus, OHSU otherwise, and extends down along Terwilliger Boulevard. Overall, you can get excellent views of the city and the Willamette River from different parts of the park, although the nature of the forest, of course, is the main attraction. At the bottom of the Markham Hill Park is a beautiful amphitheater with some very beautiful, intricate collages and murals made with tiles. and it's also a place that has some educational exhibits and a pavilion. So all in all the parks in Southwest Hills are Council Crest Park, Portland Heights Park, Washington Park, Markham Nature Park, and Governor's Park. Governor's Park is really just a long, steep downhill where they couldn't really build any houses, but they've made a very steep switchback trails all along that park, and it's actually very beautiful, especially in the winter when there's snow. It's just amazing because in Governor's Park, as you're hiking down the trails, you get a very clear view of downtown. So it feels like you're kind of hiking in the clouds. Portland Heights Park is right next to what used to be a Strohecker's store, which is no longer actually a store. It's been shut down, but the park right next to it has one of Oregon's most beautiful trees, I have to say myself. And I think there's a website that is like the 150 best trees of Portland, and that tree is on there. So if you're excited about seeing a very huge oak tree, check out Portland Heights Park. There's also some tennis courts, basketball courts, a playground. Compared to most other residential areas in Portland, Southwest Hills is one of the ritziest and most high-end and, of course, most expensive neighborhoods to buy real estate in. Homes are typically larger custom designs built over years in many different architectural styles, from ranches, two-story traditionals, colonial, craftsman, contemporary, and even the occasional Victorian. And I will have to say, it's exciting to even just walk through or drive through this neighborhood because every house is very different, very unique, and very beautiful. Many of the homes are built on the side of the hill and are cantilevered over the forest below, which you should note, be careful when looking at real estate in this neighborhood and make sure that you can handle the stairs for some of the houses. Some of the houses are right on the street level, but some of them require a very long flight of stairs just to get access to the house, which means carrying groceries would be tedious. As many of the streets in this area wind through the tree-lined forest, this makes the West Hills an interesting place to drive and a serene and beautiful place to live for sure. Because this area is so affluent, it's home to one of the highest rated elementary schools within the Portland public school system because it's so well funded, Ainsworth. Residents can feel confident that their children will have some of the best teachers and classes in the area. Technically, the only school within the neighborhood's limits is Ainsworth, but students usually attend West Sylvan Middle School and then move on to Lincoln High School downtown Portland. However, there is also a Catholic school in the neighborhood as well, so you can look into that if you're interested in a Catholic education for your kid. The name of the Catholic school is St. Thomas More Catholic School. Just so you know, the zip code is 97201, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed and that you found some gems and that you're able to come up to the Southwest Hills and explore. Looking forward to seeing you around the neighborhood. Thanks for listening. I'm Ryan Ayo, a local Portland video production company at ryanayo.com. I hope you learned a few things and get a chance to head out and explore this neighborhood. For our full Portland neighborhood guide packed with videos, illustrations, and interactive maps, visit PortlandNeighborhood.com. This episode was sponsored by Stephen Fitzmaurice, a top 1% real estate agent in Portland, principal broker in Portland with Premier Property Group LLC. You can discover his services at realestateagentpdx.com or give him a call today at 503-714-1111.